Hello, I'm Deidre McIntyre here at Black Blockchain Summit, and I'm excited to bring this next BARAZA to you. This BARAZA is called Empowering Communities Using Blockchain, and we have a task panel, so I want to jump straight to the conversation, and we're going to start things a little bit differently because I used to be a teacher, and I used to love to slam kids with do nows, even though they required you to do them. So this is going to be a thought-provoking do now. So we can have each panelist speak on it. They can jump forward when they feel comfortable answering the question. A lot of times when we talk about the Black community and anything business related or anything that is technology related or even government related, we talk in terms of deficits and what we need. I want you to pick one asset that you feel the Black communities, and you notice for the BARAZA, it's plural. So from one of the Black communities, what one asset do we have that you think blockchain can enhance or accelerate? So who wants to tackle that one first? So don't give me your bio. I don't want to hear anything. You can say I'm Janae or I'm Troy or this, that. Let's focus on this one thing, and then we'll double back to everyone's background and how they're connected to this technology. So what one asset? Who wants to start?
I'm Janae Roscoe, and I'll start off that we are innovative. We are talented. We've got a bunch of ideas, and that's the positive thing we have going for us.
I would just also add in with respect to blockchain that with that innovation and our ability to cultivate ideas under stress, we produce a lot of what most would consider to be intellectual property. But we currently are in a system that, you know, a lot of those ideas aren't acknowledged. We don't really have a digital safe space for us to be able to share those ideas and collaborate. And I think that blockchain and the security that comes with it and ledger-based technology on the right infrastructure would allow us to be able to own our ideas, which means owning our culture and where we're moving towards the future. It also creates an opportunity for us to be able to scale our ideas as well in unique ways, I would say so.
I would add, I think a low-hanging fruit probably would be land registry. That'd be huge, just in the sense of if you look at the recent study that was done as far as the U.S. Department of Ag and what it's done to systematically over time, including with some of these big corps that have pretty much purchased land or for sale of land in your ag regions, your Alabamas, your Mississippis, your sub-regions of those. A lot of the undertone that we miss is a lot of the family ownership that has been passed down to all living heirs is then muddied in the way of land registry. So if that becomes something that can be normalized, put on the blockchain, that it becomes immutable. Only thing you would have to do is just stake your blood ties to that particular land registry. Then it wouldn't be a sense of basically stealing land at the courthouse steps or for selling courthouse steps and these big corps taking all our valuable land in agriculture. That was the beginning of the wealth after.
Yeah.
And that answers your question, Dee.
I would go back to Janae's initial, like you kind of took, I think, one of the biggest benefits of the Black community. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand. The first thing that popped into my mind was resiliency, right? Throw something at us and let's see, just watch how we'll bob and weave to get to continue to live, to continue to flourish. And so I think, in fact, what this pandemic has now sprung upon us is that same need to, again, be resilient and to think through how, despite, right, and we'll obviously we're going to get into the despite part, so I'm not going to go there because that wasn't what you asked for. But what this has now done is it unfortunately, it's given us an opportunity. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, we can kind of get into that. But it has given us another opportunity to continue that resilience and think through sort of where we're going to go next to that innovation point. So I think blockchain presents a pretty interesting and compelling solution when we were thinking through that resiliency.
Wow, Lindsay said it all. I had resilience as well. So I think then the next thing I would say is community. We have a very strong sense of community, whether it's distributed. We might not necessarily have ways of working together, but we still have that strong sense of community. So blockchain allows us to kind of get back to that original communal togetherness network. And it allows us to kind of have a sustained long-term transformation as a result of the sense of community.
Yes, and with that, Telly actually stole off. I'm like, no, what's that community? No, what's that community? She stole my answer. You know, we do have these, I think we're in, not challenging times, but we're in the same kind of loop of times that kind of keep returning. And we have to keep reconnecting with our global community, our global connections. And this conference is one of the ways that we can share knowledge and connect. So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty. I did all this to set the stage because I didn't know who to introduce first. So since Janae was so brave to tackle this question first, she gets to tell us who she is and about her organization and how it may relate to blockchain. She goes first. And then next will be Fasa, then Troy, then Lindsay, and then Telly.
Well, nicely done. My name is Janae Roscoe. I'm the Senior Vice President for Government Relations and Public Policy for Operation Hope. Operation Hope was founded by John Hope Bryan in 1992 after the Rodney King and LA riots. And the work we do, we're known as a financial service NGO. And as it pertains to the blockchain and Bitcoin space, we work with the financial federal regulatory agencies to encourage our small businesses and entrepreneurs, or just and young people, through our Hope Business in a Box program that encourages young people from the K to 12, as well as college students, to take their ideas and make them a reality, becoming small businesses and entrepreneurs, taking their dreams to reality. We've been working with a lot of the different federal regulatory agencies like the USPTO and CFPB and MBDA, Minority Business Development Agency, U.S. Patent and Trade Office, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. In particular, the thing I guess I want to start off and express about the work that Operation Hope's been involved with is we went through a phase between 2014 to 2015, 2018, where you had the federal financial regulatory agencies being very cautious about the Bitcoin and blockchain space. And it was sort of like, let's wait and see what this is about. We're a little apprehensive. We're not sure about the people getting involved in it. And as of recently, all of these agencies have opened offices of innovation. And in particular, the CFPB opened up an office called the Compliance Sandbox, Assistant Sandbox, where they are now welcoming the blockchain community to apply for and receive federal regulatory support around their ideas. So we went from being cautious to, no, FinTech is now a CRA, Community Reinvestment Act, encouraged component. And instead of just trying to pre-regulate cautiously, we are encouraging for American innovation standpoint to get into the game. So that's one of the ways that Operation Hope has been involved with it. And we're have a Hope in Hand product, and we're currently just launched today a Black Business Relief Fund, where we're offering up to $25,000 in opportunities for 300 Black businesses in particular, which would include businesses that want to get out in the blockchain and Bitcoin atmosphere. So I'll stop at that, but thank you, Black Blockchain Summit, for giving Operation Hope a chance to have this platform. We believe in it, and looking forward to working with you all in the future.
Yeah, so thank you, Janae, and thank you, Black Blockchain Summit, for inviting us to be on here. I'm here as the co-founder of the Black Browser Project. One of our other co-founders, David Benjamin, spoke in an earlier panel. The idea that the internet is a safe space for our people it's just not true. And this started back a long time ago. The algorithms that are used to be able to allow people to transverse information across the web, they're finding out these algorithms inherently don't consider our position as African descendants. And as a result, a lot of them end up being racist. A lot of them end up marginalizing our narrative, marginalizing our businesses, marginalizing our ability to be found in search. And funny enough, in 2008, a browser was launched called Blackbird. Blackbird, they reached out to all the Black media outlets and they let them know, listen, these algorithms, when they hit the way that they're supposed to hit, they're going to disproportionately impact our community more than they've impacted any other community. And so if you don't jump on board these new algorithms that we've created with respect to our community, then we're not sure you're going to be here in the future. And of course, with respect to our community, it's always somebody's ice is always colder. And we didn't do it. And as a result of us not doing it, a lot of the Black media outlets at that time were either bought out or they're just not here anymore. And so our narrative is missing on the web. Those brothers, they really paved the way, but they were a little bit early, some might say. And having the opportunity to connect with some of my partners, we elected to move forward towards a web browser so that we had something that represented our ideas and our thoughts, because it's not just Black lives that matter, our ideas matter as well, especially if we want to be a part of shaping the future. A lot of people don't know this, but Google paid Safari, it's like $12 billion last year to maintain the identity as their default search engine. When we search the web, we're the only people with a guest pass to surf the web, but we have so many great ideas and stuff. So if we don't build a digital infrastructure that allows for us to really harness the power of what the web really is and what it could be for our people, then I don't know if we have a dog in this race or have a seat at the table in shaping where this future goes. And so blockchain coming into that space, we've always talked about, there's people that are talking about a decentralized web, there's people talking about a blockchain-driven web, and there's people talking about being able to monetize data. There's a lot of great things that could happen, but without blockchain, it'd be very difficult to do that securely. So if we can create a platform, and that's what we're moving towards, is creating a platform where our people with these great ideas and how to use this technology, this blockchain, to be able to move us forward, community, culture, well, we need to have a place to do that and a platform to do that. And that's what we're working on. And that's it. Thank you for, again, for giving us this space.
All right, Deidre, I think I'm next, right?
That's right. I was gonna, if I was too long over, I was gonna say Troy.
First of all, great to see you again, Deidre, and be on a panel with you. That's first and foremost. And most of you people on here, thank you all for taking the time to allow us to, I guess, present and speak on this much needed topic, much needed space, and much needed involvement. I appreciate all my other panel guests that are here and speaking about it. I am Troy Pelshak. I am the principal at Atlas Zen. We are a project management firm, and we focus on Sub-Saharan Africa and West Sub-Saharan Africa, and here in continental U.S., and of course by way of London, halfway between here and there, in the UK region. But we help our clients basically take their projects from conception to fruition, full step, but primarily staying in our lane and focusing on primarily West Africa. We've been on the ground. This has been going on a little over 2 decades now in West Africa. Number of contacts, number of trips back and forth. But we have 4 people on the ground there in country, and we've dabbled in a number of sectors and spoken to a lot of governments and private sector individuals that actually have what is the segue between what we do and the blockchain technology. because they're seeing it coming at a fast pace, and it's intersecting almost every aspect of our lives, whether we know it or whether it's an undertone, and it's intersecting so many. So most of them want to get on the forefront of how do we get in front of this so we're not caught by the wave and kind of ride this wave in to the best of our ability, but well maximizing our core competency and removing the risk when it comes to sub-Saharan Africa for those who are venturing in, or opening the rest of the world for sub-Saharan Africa because of certain blocks by whether inherent or natural or unnatural government and trade, I guess, restrictions. You have a lot of vibrant people. What you see happening in West Africa is the same thing that I guess what was happening in the U.S., disproportionate access to the global trade. There's always either a knock, don't do that, but then you ask yourself, well, how did the richest black man on the planet become a Nigerian? Where did the billions come from if it's so risky and we're supposed to stay where we're supposed to wait till the government, foreign governments lays a nice soft landing path? And that's where I guess the disproportion of information, access, and accessibility always stems. And blockchain has the immense, especially with the smart contracts. That's where we've been heavily looking at currently. Smart contracts take away a lot of other things. Now it's just a matter of, do you want to take that product or that service, and you don't have to wait for other restrictions that are saying this is the true way to do it, not the only way. And we try to help our clients kind of see it full A to Z, as we say in Africa. Thank you all.
Well, thank you so much to the Blockchain Summit for having me here again for the second year in a row. I'm honored to be here. My name is Lindsay Parker, and I happen to be the Chief Technology Officer for DC government. But I think the better way to understand sort of what I do and why I do it is to know where I come from. And my grandparents met at Hampton University, Hampton Institute at the time, and got together their freshman year and were together forever. They're probably the most important role models in my life, and they dedicated their whole careers to public service. And they started out as teachers, both at Dunbar in Baltimore, and then my grandfather became one of the members of the first USAID classes, and they both traveled to Liberia and Nigeria together to do development work at that point. So helping kind of develop what USAID became. Let's not talk about it now, but the truth is they've inspired in all of their offspring, their grandchildren, this sort of drive for public service. And how do we utilize the crazy systems that be to do good by a community that we need to do good by to make sure that they're in a better off place than when we got there. And so that is sort of what has driven my entire career. And I had the good fortune of working for two different mayors in Washington, D.C., Adrienne Fenty and Muriel Bowser. I was just recently her deputy chief of staff, but became the chief technology officer a year and a half ago, and have this fascinating perspective right now during COVID, where, everybody wants and ultimately I'm essentially the CIO for DC government. So it's just a name, it's like a silly name thing. But the idea being that we're in the middle of this pandemic that has just accentuated or just exacerbated sort of all of the gaps that we talk about in our city, and has brought them into, if you didn't know it before, now everybody should understand the health gaps, the opportunity gaps, the education gaps that exist in what should be almost a mecca that others should try to emulate in terms of a majority Black city. And we now, I know that everyone that I work with has, I don't know, let me not make an all statement. A lot of people have recognized the need and the way by which we need to close some of those gaps anymore, right, in the current world that we're existing in right now, is through technology. Right? We need to make sure that we've got, some Medicaid recipients sitting at home with diabetes, high blood pressure, right? And we know that the majority of them are in our community. And we need to make sure that they're still able to get to the telehealth, the healthcare options that they're accustomed to seeing every day. So we're thinking through telehealth options for them. Same issue with foster kids that need to be able to still have contact with their birth families. Same issue with students. Here's an interesting issue that hopefully won't sit on the front page of the Washington Post when this becomes public, but we provided devices to students over the summer, particularly those that needed extra classes and extra summer school. Those students then, we weren't able to refresh their devices like we were everybody else. So now we're seeing issues with updates, and we're seeing issues with sort of security settings that we have to try to figure out how to deal with remotely. We need them to kind of bring them back, give them new ones. But this is, again, impacting a community that didn't have the skills, the digital skills to begin with, to understand sort of how to take ownership and access the services that they needed to. And so this kind of, this panel, I'm just just thrilled to be a part of it, because there's a lot of things that, one of the things that we're focused on, and I'm calling it Tech Together DC, is really thinking through, I hate talking about bridging the digital divide, because it's still a bridge and there's water. So I say getting rid of, right? And the things that we're focused on are access to service. And so next week you'll hear the mayor announce service for our most underserved community members, making sure that they've got internet service, making sure that those same residents have access to computing devices, not just cell phones, because we know that 86.4% of our city has a smartphone, but a larger number does not have a computing device. And so making sure they have access to devices, making sure that they have, that there's a comprehensive plan to demystify technology and make sure that we're talking about some of those security issues that were raised before. And then lastly is, if we do all of this for our residents, they're gonna then look at us at DC government and say, well, why can't we access these services online? And so making sure that we also have a continuum for DC government employees, majority Black in DC, to also go along a tech savviness continuum, so that we are able to get them to a place where everybody understands what blockchain is. And everybody understands sort of the benefits of ensuring that sort of that sandbox environment that Janae talked about is created even in DC, right? Like, how do we make sure that we've got a sandbox environment so that we too can learn from what's going on in the rest of the world, make sure that we understand sort of the opportunities for our local businesses in the financial space, and innovate. So that's we like to call ourselves the inclusive innovation capital of the world. And so in order to do that, we've got to get on this train. That was long, sorry.
Okay, I guess I'm next. Okay, so wow, I'm just amazed. Thank you very much, Black Blockchain Summit, for having me on this year. Last year I couldn't make it, so I'm really pleased. And this panel is like really amazing. Don't know what to say that could top what you just said, Lindsay. So I can identify with the last three speakers. Lindsay, in my field, what drives me has always been development and creating a sense of, I don't like to call it social impact, because I think social impact has been watered down. I like to call it transformational impact. So, and there are multiple dimensions of transformational impact. So my name is Telly Valerie Onu. I live in St. Kitts and Nevis, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I'm actually Afro-Caribbean, so of African descent. I'm here representing two and a half entities. One, I'm the co-founder for Beyond Capital Markets. My co-founder is actually African-American. So we've done something very unique in the space, in that we've actually proven that Blacks from two different communities and societies can work together. We've been doing that since 2014. And we have a very unique story in that I'm actually currently in Nevis, and back in 2014, pretty much a year into us meeting, we came down to Nevis. We stayed at Alexander Hamilton's property, and we sat down to talk about this broken financial system. And he being, you know, one of the main architect and financial innovator for the traditional financial system that we find ourselves in, we said, well, the system's broken. Well, that's obviously the narrative, and it's been the narrative why we even talk about blockchain. But we looked holistically at, you know, what aspects of the system was broken. And then we sat there, and on his property, we mapped out and redesigned, came up with a concept to kind of redesign this digital financial market infrastructure. So Fanza, I hear you. We do need a financial market infrastructure that supports us and allows us to allocate capital. So 2015, 5 years on, I'm happy to say we've been able to then develop not only a digital financial market infrastructure framework with some technologies on it. We've been able to partner as well with other, should I say, to be ethically pleasing, so other ethically connected protocols. So I'm also the head of governance and execution for Bantu blockchain. We're still in should I say, we're in incognito mode, but we're hoping to launch our mainnet in December. So you hear about that. So we're a highly distributed team. Comprises of a lot of people from African descent and all connected, all with the purpose of reconnecting the Bantu, us as Bantus, and empowering humanity overall. So having that protocol foundation on the blockchain, as well as building out a digital financial market infrastructure, we kind of see it holistically, because we know blockchain does a lot of great things, but it doesn't solve everything. So we tend to look at it holistically from a digital financial perspective. And so what started out with basically financial acceleration type programs. Since 2015, we trained central banks and institutions, and I'm happy to say in the Eastern Caribbean, Central Bank has moved ahead with now starting to pilot a central bank digital currency. At the very beginning, it started out with just the capacity building and training. So I'm all for how do we educate and build capacity. So our foundation is education. We've been able to launch an institute or academy for finance and digital finance. It's called Out School, because our background is also alternative investments as well. And we've been able to secure partnerships, some great partners with Middlesex University, and they've validated our postgraduate programs. So now we have 2 postgraduate programs for this year and 5 more coming up next year. And we have just, knock wood, just secured, received a certification to do a new chartered industry certification, professional industry certification as a pipeline to that program. Because what we found is, unfortunately, I think with the emergence of blockchain, you had a sort of organic development and learning and stuff. And let's be honest, there's some solutions out there that just don't make any sense. And so there's a need to kind of professionalize the whole industry, especially if we want to connect and increase adoption. So we went about looking at our base, which is finance, understanding the financial foundation, but also understanding how we can transform and support enterprises and institutions in their transformation, while also creating a pathway, an alternative pathway for education for our people across all sides. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and I'll go on. There are probably other things I could say.
She said a little bit. All of you are jam-packed, working on a number of different things. So I'm going to go a little out of order to ask different questions of different people and try to keep your responses to about 2 minutes. So with Telly, I'm not going to go in reverse order, but because she was the last to speak, I had a question since you broke news that there's going to be a Bantu blockchain. What specific blockchain issue is that project? I mean, we need the scoop. Black Blockchain Summit needs a scoop. What specific direction is it going? Is it going to be an opportunity for people to mine? Is it going to be an opportunity for people to build? You know, what can you tell us now so that we can prepare?
Okay, I can't speak too much, but I can give you a little snippet. No, it's not proof of work. Okay, we believe and we love our planet, and we're not into this crazy overmining, so it's just not going to be about that. It's going to be one that rewards instead of takes from you, and it's one that truly connects solutions with people. So we're not just focusing on just onboarding the developer community. It's going to be one that's focused on onboarding other people and increasing adoption. So it comes with solutions baked into the framework, which is something unique. And one thing I could tell you, it's designed for us as a people, as a Black people. It connects with our needs. So when you talk about user friendly, trust me, when it launches, you'll be able to connect and understand. It's for us. It's for the Black community across the world. Africa,
that's exactly.
diaspora. That's what I could tell you.
That's exactly what I'm gonna jump to Lindsay next. Specifically, it relates to the DC government. Do you find that because of COVID-19, your focus is more putting Band-Aids on the stab wounds as opposed to being at a point where you can accept relationships with people who might have blockchain startups? I mean, give us an idea, Lindsay, of where blockchain fits into resolving some of the issues in DC.
Deidre, that's a good question. So I think the correct answer would be, you're right. I've got about 40,000 people, users on our enterprise, like DC government employees, DC government contractors, and then another 54,000 on our school enterprise. And so it's a big enterprise. Arguably a little convoluted, right? Has kind of been built over time. And so you're right in thinking that we are focused on sort of the basics, right? Making sure our infrastructure stays solid while over 63% of our user body now is working remotely, right? Those are the kind of things that we're focused on, and it's taken up a lot of bandwidth. That being said, the thing that I keep saying in terms of anyone that's in a growing or innovative space, and I have specifically said it to our Black small business owners in Washington, D.C., is what I need now more than ever is for them to create opportunities for others in our community so that they can actually get involved in projects now, learn about kind of what's going on, what's the latest and greatest, be involved in some of these innovative projects today. I am actually just going to be standing up a working group to look at what I can do in terms of contracting for projects and paying for people to have DC residents as interns on those projects so that they can be contracting alongside. So those are the kind of things that I'm looking, but you're right. I am much more focused on the overwhelming challenge in front of me is I want to be smarter, right? I want to be more innovative and I want to be more forward leaning, but I've got to make sure that we're connected first. And so making sure that I've got internet service, devices, and understanding that technology shouldn't be feared, but should be carefully utilized. Those are the biggest things that are sort of top of mind for me, making sure that our community is actually able to access opportunities to come. But we do, our insurance and securities and banking department is about to come up with a sandbox solution to start testing, different solutions in-house, primarily in regards to financial solutions. So that is soon to come.
And where can you just check the DC website? I mean, where will people know about the announcement?
disb.dc.gov. Department of Insurance, Security, and Banking. You have to know the acronym. Believe me, the website's a different story, but disb.dc.gov. And they've actually got a committee working on this right now. So I don't know, eminent is probably strong language, but shortly it will definitely be coming about, which is exciting.
And I want to put a shout out to, first of all, it's great to see an African-American person of color, woman in that prestigious role with our mayor in DC. So thank you for your leadership. And I'm glad you put a plug out for DISB. We work very closely with the DC government's Financial Literacy Commission. And that is one of the issues that comes up regularly around Bitcoin, blockchains, and we're looking forward to that sandbox opportunity coming out. So I just want to, for the record, for the Black Blockchain Summit, if you live in places where there are some really good regulatory banking entities that are doing progressive things, please work with them.
Janae, actually glad you dropped in because the sandbox was referenced. I was actually going to hop back to you about the sandbox that you mentioned and how people could find out more information. And is Operation Hope the organization to go do to find about all these funding issues, because the community does suffer from the amount of funding and being qualified for the funding. So if you could speak on some of the qualifications of these funding so people could get their act together, as well as how they can keep abreast of when the sandboxes are available.
Well, I'll start off with Operation Hope. Our website is www.operationhope.org. And if you Google Operation Hope and Black Entrepreneurs Relief Fund, you'll see that's out there on social media, the information about the $25,000 grant opportunity. And again, because we are in the financial sector, we are looking for innovations in the Bitcoin and the blockchain and the financial service industry. We're looking for innovative ways to support businesses that are out there who've been struggling from COVID in particular, and they're sort of stuck in trying to get their ideas to the next level and getting funding in that regard. So hopefully people will come in that regard. In the government affairs and public policy shop that I work in, we work very closely with over 24 federal regulatory agencies, and mainly the ones that are dealing with finance. And so in particular, the Office of the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency has an Office of Innovation. The U.S. Patent and Trade Office has an Office of Innovation. The CFPB has an Office of Innovation. The FDIC, the Federal Reserve, the SEC that deals with investor.gov and other entities. You hear the doorbell. These are agencies that we work with, and CFTC. All of them have not just shifted from, we don't know what blockchains and Bitcoins are, and making people cautionary, to say, no, let's open the door of opportunity for people to help America in their innovation strides be progressive, and welcoming people of color in particular who are innovative in their own right to look into this space. And so it was a big push from the CRA perspective, the community reinvestment positioning, to make sure that FinTech was one of the CRA approvals that the financial industry, including credit unions, for NCUA purposes, would open the door so that people in this particular space who had ideas would not be stopped, but actually will help us and the next phase of how things are going in the financial community, that we can help make these things real. And so we're working in that space from the public and the private sector capacity. And we want to continue to encourage companies and entities that look like us in the Black and Brown communities to not be shy and know that there are avenues out there that can help people turn in their applications, look for these sandbox opportunities, and help protect from a legal and a financial standpoint their ability to grow for our company, for our country and our communities.
Thank you, Janae. We're going to go Troy and then Fasa, and just remember again about 3 minutes to respond. Troy, you mentioned that you do a lot of project management in West Africa. In what ways can Black startup founders, for instance, become involved in a blockchain capacity with some of the relationships that you have in West Africa?
Thank you. Just keep it real short and sweet, I guess. In essence, a lot of connections that are made organically. Most of the time, if you go through here, when it comes to international trade, is through one of the U.S. government agencies or, one of the U.S. government programs, reverse trade missions, and those standpoints. I was fortunate enough to sit on then Congressman Mel Watt's International Roundtable, which he held in the middle of his district when he was still congressman. And one of the biggest challenges was making those connections and spreading it out far and wide, casting the net wide. And I get the question all the time is, well, what the opportunities are there, or what are the hurdles that have been done? And the simplest thing that I can tell anybody and everybody is stay in your lane. Your core competency here, there is that same either need, desire, customer base. Their infrastructure might be different. That's where the lag sort of comes from. Now, when it comes from a blockchain solution, same thing, stay in your lane. If your blockchain solution is here based on you're focusing within either a certain sector or certain demographics in West Africa, understand the social construct of how people engage in the, let's say, traditional format is how they're going to engage with blockchain or whatever solution you have. So don't try to recreate, understand the customer base and understand how does that dovetail back into your blockchain solution. So I don't want to go too much into detail, but in summation, that's kind of what we do is we help make actionable connections to West Africa. I've sat on a few ICO boards, a few exchanges that was trying to dovetail in a few investment bankers that want to diversify their portfolio for some of their ultra high net worth clients in the UK, in London. One thing they said is there's regulatory hurdles you need to overcome, but then there's the social, and you can't just lump it all and say this is a one size fits all. Well, it works great here where we consume it with something as simple as data rates, upload and download speeds, which Lindsay, you got the same. I think everybody, our school district here is having the same challenges. You've gotten farther than us here. Charlotte, North Carolina. I think Chicago's the only one that's kind of really sort of put a long-term plan towards a solution. But there's so many different, what happens to opening it up to testers to global testing? There goes the interaction between your Sub-Sahara developers, your Caribbean developers, your devs, all these other people that are saying, hey, I can do this. I just don't have the platform in order to get in. And so that could be your testing pool. I know there's a few West Africa companies that deal with West Africa that they've had over 200 employees between just Nigeria and Kenya. And all they do is back-end support for US tech companies. So they're available. That's how blockchain can sort of take out that risk factor, smart contract executionable, simple things as that. Let me give some time. I gotta hear what Fasa has to say.
Yeah, I'm throwing the same question at Fasa because, even though he's not representing a country, he's representing, the Black browser is representing something that's supposed to be inclusive of all our communities. So it's more the same question of, how do we get, you get a lot of Black startup founders that are nipping at the bit, looking for opportunities. And so how do they connect their projects to what's being built with Black browser?
Let me read something real quick. It's just one line. Data sovereignty is the idea that data is subject to the laws and governance structures within the nation it is collected. The idea of a Black browser is more than just having a presence on the web. We're talking about our data, the lifeblood, the fuel that will move us forward in a digital economy. It's the idea of a digital Black nation, a digital nation of African descendants. We're talking about the data that we would innovate from, that comes from our community, that other companies IPO for billions and billions of dollars, with us being able to leverage that data ourselves and build pipelines into the innovation and entrepreneurship sectors that and institutions that Janae was speaking of, into the innovation and entrepreneurship programs that are within the HBCUs. We're talking about us moving our own people forward. We don't have all the ideas in terms of the Black browser itself, but the thousands of applications, opportunities to use smart contracts, the opportunities to really leverage what we're doing in blockchain, and to scale those ideas out without fear of somebody coming in and with a larger entity and just gobbling everything up. Like, there's a reason why these pitch contests and these diversity inclusion initiatives don't necessarily, they help us, but they help us in very siloed, individual, isolated ways. If I bring my idea somewhere and it's from a different community, the first thing that they are told to do is to chop it up into pieces and tell you, well, we'll give you enough money to get you down the runway, but not enough money to get you in the air into the place that it is that you're trying to get to. So you're playing a game, and there is a wealth gap in this country. So that's an issue. And like, I think Lindsay was saying, the digital divide, like, that's a real thing. We need to eliminate the digital divide and get rid of this wealth gap. And we can only do that if we create a digital safe space for our people to be able to scale out our ideas so that we maintain the control over them. I'm not saying that other people shouldn't be able to invest, but if we had a digital nation and we focused on the digital real estate that's able to scale much faster than anything else that's going on in a digital economy, then you could work with us as allies on our own terms thead of forcing us to, wait for you to hire 1% of your company has to be minority owned, or wait for us to, there's so many issues with it. I don't want to talk too much, but I just want to say that it's important that we figure out how to work together. And I do think that we need a platform to stand on. And it's funny, I had mentioned the brothers, last thing I'm going to say, the brothers that started that Blackbird browser, and they were early, so they didn't get the type of reception from our community that they should have had we not had the psychological impediment that always holds us back. We partnered with those brothers. One of them is the former founder of the Source magazine. They had built some stuff that was like the first iTunes before iTunes was up. These are our ancestors that paved the way before us. Now we could go and we could try to build what we're doing, and then they could go their separate way as well. But instead, we need to leverage our community. We need to leverage the ideas that came before us and be iterative like other communities are. We're not iterative. We scrabble and we I don't want to say fight amongst ourselves, but we find ways to build the same thing that somebody else is building on the block next over, and they look just like us. So I love what the sister was saying. Ellie, I thought it was a big deal. That's all.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we're actually coming down maybe to like a couple of a minute or something like that. But I just want to remind those that are attending the conference to definitely get the HOVA app, WHOVA, install it. Every speaker that's a part of this conference is on that app that you can direct message, and then you can follow up. And hopefully the panelists are on this panel as well. Well, I see a lot of, more than any other panel that I've moderated, it was so great to see a lot of conversations behind the scenes in the chat room and people connecting more than any other panel. And I've done like 4 or 5 panels, and I think that's great to see that we can, the small conversation is allowing us to build on what's next. And I definitely want to give a thank you to Black Blockchain Summit for letting me moderate a few panels, and also say that I am representing today, and that's right. That's why I ended it with Fasa, to say something Fasa so I can see the shirt, because he's wearing Satoshi is Black. It just happens to be one of those days that I saw these shirts a lot. That's because we were all connected to previous conferences as well. So with that said, I want to put an end to, not an end, to be continued to the empowering Black communities using blockchain, and definitely reach out to everyone that's on this panel. And thank you so much for your contributions, and to keep moving forward. And hopefully next year we'll be able to reconvene in person. Thank you.